realized that I was an artist when I found out how joyful and like true playing with my food was. I often found myself creating things. I never really needed toys because I was always able to produce the things that I liked. I didn't necessarily know the word artist as a career or a profession, but I knew it by the way that I felt. Graffiti and superheroes was probably the beginning staples of being able to capture who I wanted to be as an illustrator or as an artist. Being able to just lose myself in these images led me to being able to find myself. The art that really changed my life was probably the works of Ernie Barnes. He captured people of color, but he did it in an animated way that made them feel not just real, like realistic, but they were soulfully sleek, they were elongated, they were cool, they were sexy, they were fun. It was substantive to see those images in a creative way. I think second to Ernie Barnes was probably the work of Romare Bearden. I could see two worlds captured in two different voices, but still feel like it was the same song. And then the third artist was Lois Mailou Jones. Her works were very influential as I began to find the essence of being an African and an African American. I often emulated her works when I was in undergrad or graduate school, and it became the threshold of my first series of African Mask and finding the identity as an African American. I caught myself, stepping into this professional space, and I went out to LA to this College Art Association. And it was the beginning of my becoming a professional artist, if you will, and venturing out into the network. So I traveled to LA, and I go and I bring my portfolio, and I have all of my hopes and dreams wrapped up into this artwork. And I just so happened to meet a gentleman, it was an artist at the time. So I pulled this cat to the side, and I'm trying to be aggressive to talk to the notion of, my portfolio. I had all my images placed in there, and it was nice, but they were just photographs, and they wasn't really what was needed at the time. And so he let me talk and let me talk and let me talk, and finally, once it got to the finish line of my statement, like, so what you think? And all he just looked at me was just like, you just not scratching the surface. I tell you, I was just utterly crushed. So everything I had done prior to elementary school, middle school, high school, college, and then my graduate degree, all that time has just not got me to scratch the surface. That just made me feel like it was for nothing. But actually, it was probably the best thing for me because it put me on a path to know how deep, how sincere, how critical I had to think about every mark that I produced. And that has kind of been the footprint of my artwork now. When I was an undergrad at Washington State University, I was the only black student, maybe for 2-3 years, about 4 years there. Then I think in my senior year, there was another black student or Hispanic student. The voids that were there were not only just cultural to give me an effective, energy to make me feel like I was learning about myself as an artist, as well as learning about a culture of expression that reflected me. But the voids were, there was nothing to develop a professional space. It was just like study, take your tests, take your exams, produce your artwork and your craft, but nothing that was actually teaching us to become professional or developing our resumes or our portfolios. My brother effectively had an experience where in the sciences, he studied microbiology. He knew he wanted to be a dentist. He knew he wanted to be involved in that. And there were so many different bridges or pathways for him as a student in the sciences. And I often was wondering, where are they for me in the arts? I didn't see a professional space. It was either be an art teacher or just be an artist. But there was no other kind of connection to the notion of your critical ability or your transferable skill sets. And so many of my choices were wrong because I didn't know where to go. I was shooting in the dark. And so, thinking about resources to help college students, now that I'm a professor, now that I have an opportunity to inform and educate young individual visual and performing arts students in the same way that I was, produced this space of giving this resource. And the resource has materialized into being Psi Rho Alpha. It's important to not only encourage artists or students who are studying art, but it's important to give them direction. Just because you're getting a degree don't mean that you really know much. But the resource that I want to provide is one to honor you, to lift you up, to provide a network for you. Honestly, I got your back. Like, I'm with you. I'm in it. I've always been an advocate for the arts because I feel like I have to advocate for myself. I live art. This is a resource from an artist to an artist.